Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com. Is it just me, or does art journaling help you work out all the feelings? All right, the jumping off point for today's art journaling is actually this beautiful set from 49 and Market. I've been loving them and I wanted to use some of these pieces. I've pulled out some paints that kind of go with those, and we're just going to play with some mixed media, some stamping, and see what comes of it. So I will put you guys on fast forward. I will link everything that I end up using down below. Otherwise, let's do it. I'm actually going to start out with some Distress Oxide spray, and I chose this actually because I did not have acrylic paint the color that I was looking for. I really wanted acrylic paint in a soft sage green and this kind of slate blue. I had the Distress ink. The green that I chose ended up being a little more yellow than anticipated, and of course the yellow kind of comes out a bit, but that's okay. I needed to cover up a little bit of the bleed through. I don't often deal with too much bleed through in my art journaling because these are rather thick pages, but every now and then I do. So we're just going to use the paint kind of as the basis to cover up some of the bleed through. And then I wanted to add a feature in the middle. I wanted to have the drip, and so we have it on both sides. As I'm trying to kind of clean up the drip section, I'm going to use a paper towel to soak up. That's something I do all the time with Distress Oxide, or really any distress inks, watercolors. I always have paper towels around so that I can clean up some of those drips, or else it can take a really long time to dry. And as you can see, when I'm cleaning up the drip, it's taking out some of the yucky green color that I wasn't wanting in there anyway. For me, working in my art journal is all about letting go and kind of taking things as they come. And I think I enjoy it so much in my art journaling because I struggle with it so much in the rest of my life. I am a type A person through and through. I like to have control. I like to understand what's coming. I like to understand all of the different possibilities. I like to know the different results, and you just can't do that in art journaling. And so you're going to see as I work through this page, there are some things that go wrong. This is acrylic paint. This is the Art Basics brand. I like it a lot. I had watered it down. I wanted it to kind of work like the sprays. It did not. You can see that's rather splotchy. So I'm just pulling in more water to bring that color out even more. We're going to add that color in the rest of the page. This is one of those points. There is a point in every single art journaling entry I think that I have ever done that I think, oh no, I've messed up this whole page. I can't go back. I can't fix it. I don't know where this is going. And all you can do is just keep going forward. Just keep trying, seeing what will happen. If you get so frustrated, there's definitely been times that I've put the art journal down, I've put it away, I've come back to it on another day. Those are possibilities as well, but you can't just give up. You can't stop in the middle, or else you're going to end up with a page that you don't love. So I've added all of this acrylic paint. Again, we're working on the background here. And that's, again, what I keep reminding myself. Art journaling is about building from the bottom up, building a background first, and then seeing what comes of it. All right, so now this is rather dark. I want to brighten it up. We're going to use some white paint. I decided to crumple up this paper towel, and we're going to do this kind of texture look. Do I love this? No. I feel like it's making it worse. I like the brightness. I like the bit of white coming in, but I don't like that texture look necessarily. It wasn't exactly what I was going for. And so after I give it a pretty good try, I'm actually going to pull out some gesso, white gesso, and we're going to scrape the white gesso across the page. As soon as I end up cleaning up my table, it gets a little messy in there. We're going to do some white gesso scraping. This is kind of one of my go-tos frequently, is using white gesso to A, brighten up a page, and B, tone down parts of the page that I am not loving. But before I do the white gesso, I'm actually going to come in with Distress Oxide ink this time. This is the same stormy blue color that I used in the spray. I wanted to bring it around the edges to just focus in on this particular spread. I thought it was getting too light around the edges. Whenever you add a dark border, it's kind of framing in the look. I liked this a lot. This helped bringing in more of the blue. That was definitely the color I was going for. Now let's do a little bit of paint scraping. At first I thought maybe I'll use the acrylic paint, but really gesso was the way to go. See, the acrylic paint was just, it wasn't doing it. I'm trying to dig it out of this. It wasn't heavy enough. So what I really needed to do was grab that white gesso, and it gave me a thicker look. It gave me a little bit of texture. It brought in a brightness to the middle of the page that I was looking for, and it toned down some of the green that I wasn't loving, that was coming across more as yellow. And I really feel like this is the turning point. This is where I was like, okay, I can deal with this background. Now it's interesting to me. Now I like all the imperfections in the background. And let's add just a little bit more. This is a background stamp from Sweet and Sassy Stamps from long time ago. And I'm just going to use some black VersaFine Onyx ink to stamp a little bit of texture in the background, knowing that I'm going to build on top of that. Having the texture again helps to break up some of the color that I wasn't loving, some of the splotching that I wasn't loving, and I'm starting to really dig this background. Now that I'm okay with the background, it's time to start working on some focal points. I wanted to use circles. Circles have been extra intriguing to me lately. Why? I don't totally know, but they definitely are. And I love me a messy line. I'm actually using a micron pen. These are fabulous in art journaling, and I'm using the size 1, which is pretty thick. And I'm going over the line that I trace to make it look very, very sketchy, very rough, as if I just kind of freehand drew those in. And now I'm ready to do a little bit of stamping. I happen to love these stamps from Dina Wakley. I think they are cool and unusual. At first, I thought that I would give it a try in the pink. Definitely would have been cool, but definitely did not show up. If I maybe could have tried acrylic paint. That would have been a really good way to bring a more bold pink to the page, like that peachy pink that I had going on somewhat in the background, but I wanted to use ink. So we're going to go with black. We're going to stamp our first lady right there. Originally, I was only going to have one, but as I was putting it back, I kind of imagined what it would be like to have all 3 of them, because I almost have 3 spaces mapped out. Obviously, I have the 2 circles mapped out. That's exactly where 2 of them will fit, but I like the idea that one is outside the circle. It's like they're hanging out, but there's something separating them, which I just find interesting. So we're going to do all 3 of these stamps in the 3 different sections of the page. And I kind of dig it at this point. I could have also left it at this point. I could have given them some words, words in the circle, words outside the circle. That would have very much made sense. But I knew I wanted to use some of these 49 and Market pieces. So that's what I'm going to do. I opted for frames because in my head, I had already kind of framed 2 of these people in the circles. And I thought, let's contradict the circles with some more angles. And therefore, I'm going to cut these frames apart. Ideally, I feel like I would have had the people on top of the frames, but I couldn't work out how to make that work without pulling in some extra paper that I didn't want in this particular entry. So instead, we're going to cut the frames apart and then have them kind of going around the people, framing them in some cool and unique ways. It's really fun bringing in paper pieces at this point because it's a lot of just play. Now that I'm looking at it on screen, I feel like what I could have done would have been to trace each of these frames with a black marker of some sort to add a boldness. That would have brought a lot of extra attention to them. So maybe it would have been too much. I don't have the black line there. I can always go back and change it, but it's fun to just play with these pieces and it's very relaxing. I love how art journaling makes me feel. I love how it relaxes me. I love how it allows me to just work out all the feelings in paint, in messiness, and to work through difficulties in a really tangible way. And even though it can be frustrating at times, and even though this is not, it's nothing to write home about. This is not a like crazy unique page or crazy creative page or anything like that. But it was good for me and good for my creativity. And I think that's one of the joys of art journaling is really getting in touch with your personal creativity because every page is going to be different. You can't always control the outcome. And that is just a wonderful life lesson in general. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today while I did a little bit of art journaling. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. Just like always, I will link all of the supplies that I used down in the description box below so you can check down there. But for art journaling, I always encourage you to dig into your stash, check out what you have, and just start experimenting on the page. It really teaches you how to let go, how to just enjoy the process, how to see where the process takes you. And for me, that has been such a valuable lesson that I can then kind of take into my life. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Thank you all so much for all of your support. We are having a fabulous time. There's tons of extra things happening over on Patreon. There's extra videos, there's Zoom calls, there's live streams, there's printables, there's Happy Mail, so many things. And we would love to have you join us over there. So you can check out the link for Patreon down in the description box below. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.